Welcome back to Twilight Films. Today, Vincent D'Onfrio, who plays Kingpin, said he really wants to come back and play Kingpin in Spider-Man 4, and there's a lot of stuff to break it down, so let's finally break this news down. But first, let's talk about the main question that we have. Is Kingpin actually alive after the ending of Hawkeye? Remember, at the end of Hawkeye, we saw Maya go up to Kingpin and confront him in a dark alleyway, and then we supposedly hear a gunshot, but we don't actually see the body of Kingpin anywhere. We hear it, but we don't actually see any evidence, nothing that points towards Kingpin being actually dead in the MCU. And there's a rule in movies that if you don't see the body, the person is most likely alive, so that means that Kingpin is most likely alive after the ending of Hawkeye. For example, in Fast and Furious, Shaw supposedly killed the character called Han, but then we didn't even see Han's body and he finally came back last year in Fast and Furious 9. So I'm 100% sure it's the same situation. Kingpin definitely survived, and Kingpin's actor, Vincent D'Onofrio, also wants to come back in multiple projects. Why would he say that he wants to come back if he's not alive? Why would he say that if he's dead in the MCU? And obviously Marvel is not stupid enough to waste a character completely on the last episode of a show that wasn't even about him being the villain. They definitely want him to come back and return in different projects, and let's talk about the main project now, the main news, Kingpin returning in Spider-Man 4. Is it really gonna happen? So what actually is Spider-Man 4 about? Well, at the end of Spider-Man No Home, spoilers by the way for Spider-Man No Way Home if you haven't already seen it already, we see Venom being transported back to his universe, but then a piece of Venom is left behind for Spider-Man to catch on. So what actually is Spider-Man 4 about? Well, if you guys remember, spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home by the way, at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, Venom gets transported back to his universe, but a piece of Venom is left behind, and that obviously sets up a whole Spider-Man versus Venom storyline, probably even a symbiote trilogy, who knows. So the next movie is obviously about Venom versus Spider-Man, maybe even bringing in other symbiotes like Toxin, who knows, but the point is it's going to be a symbiote storyline. So how is Kingpin actually going to fit in a storyline that's completely not about him? Because Kingpin obviously needs a whole movie on his own. He's a main villain in himself, and Spider-Man should definitely have a full movie to try and fight him, to grow out of his character by fighting Kingpin. But I think there are actually multiple ways of introducing Kingpin, even if the next movie is going to be Spider-Man versus Venom. Remember, during Hawkeye, Kingpin was actually the villain, so he was the person behind the Trust, a bros group, the criminal groups, and all of the local criminals and stuff like that. So maybe in Spider-Man 4, when Spider-Man takes down his local criminals, Kingpin is actually revealed to be the person behind it. Maybe he's not seen in person, but we definitely know that it's Kingpin because he's the actual leader of the criminal gang in New York. So I think Kingpin could definitely be lurking behind the shadows in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. Maybe we don't see him at all, but he's definitely going to be having some sort of a role in the local crime that Spider-Man fights. Because remember, the whole reason why Peter is the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is because he always likes to fight the local criminals in his friendly neighborhood. In Far From Home, we saw him fight the local criminals. In Spider-Man Homecoming, we literally saw the whole movie about him fighting his local criminals. And in the next Spider-Man 4 movie, I'm 100% sure that we're going to see him fighting the local criminals too. And who's the leader of the local criminals? As I already said, it's definitely has to be Kingpin. So that's the first option, that we don't actually see Kingpin, but that we know that he's behind some of the stuff that's happening in the movie. Now the second option, the option that I really want to happen, is that Kingpin could be introduced in the post-credit scene. What I really want to happen is right at the end, what I really want to happen is that they set up a grounded storyline for Spider-Man. It would be awesome if he's introduced in the post-credit scene. Maybe we see Daredevil come in right at the end and he meets Spider-Man, and then maybe we see Kingpin hiding in the shadows or something like that. And that sets up a whole Spider-Man and Daredevil versus Kingpin storyline. But I don't really expect that to happen until maybe Spider-Man 6, because I'm pretty sure that Spider-Man 4 and probably even Spider-Man 5 is going to be about the symbiote, meaning that they're going to probably wait until Spider-Man 6 to introduce the whole criminal storyline thing. Or maybe even they're going to use Spider-Man 6 to introduce the Sinister Six, Morbius, Vulture, Kraven, and whoever Sony is going to introduce. So maybe Kingpin is not going to be introduced until much later on. We just have to wait and see until what happens. If you want to see daily Marvel news and theories, drop us up to the channel. See you in the next video.